More backlash from localist lawmakers in oath-taking controversy. Airport Express suspension sparks chaos for travelers. And Thais coming to terms with the death of their king.
Good evening. The Airport Express was suspended for more than 4 hours today after a broken wire disrupted power supply. As Elmi Lung reports, the glitch also led to the suspension of train service on the Tung Chung line.
Anxious moments for those trying to catch their flight during the morning rush hour. Travellers hoping to hop on the Airport Express were left disappointed. Rail and in-town check-in services were suspended shortly after 8:30 a.m.
Really depressed. I didn't expect that because I leave only 3 hours to go there. I think there's enough time for me to take a rest or to do everything, okay? But now it's different.
The MTR Corporation arranged shuttles to send affected passengers to the airport and Asia World Expo.
The fact that they're putting on a free bus service and rectifying the problem is a good thing, yeah.
And there were long queues for free buses outside Sunny Bay Station after train services between Sunny Bay and Tung Chung were suspended. Tung Chung-bound trains from Tsingyi reached only as far as Sunny Bay Station. A problem with the overhead line equipment near Sunny Bay Station has been blamed for the service disruptions.
We find that there was a steel wire that is part of the overhead line system that was found broken.
The railway giant has apologized to affected passengers. After hours of repair work, train services returned to normal just after 1 p.m. The company promised to launch an in-depth investigation to look into the cause of the glitch. Elmi Long, TVB News.
A cyclist was killed early this morning after being struck by a minibus in Changshui. The minibus driver has been arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving causing death. As Rachel Leung reports, the case has once again raised concerns about bike safety.
Tragedy struck just before 7 a.m. on Fankam Road in Shengshui. Police say a red or non-franchised minibus was traveling towards Paheng and was near North District Hospital when it apparently hit a 53-year-old man on his bike. The cyclist was reportedly thrown 12 meters on impact and was rushed to hospital with serious head injuries. He was confirmed dead shortly afterwards. Police cordoned off the accident site while the 55-year-old minibus driver was questioned at the scene. He passed a breathalyzer test and was arrested on suspicion of dangerous driving causing death. Police say initial investigations have found that the cyclist was crossing the road while on his bike. Investigators are also looking into whether the minibus was speeding and if both the minibus driver and victim had followed traffic light instructions. According to Transport Department guidelines, cyclists should get off their bike when crossing the road and stick to riding on cycle tracks where available. But here in Shengshui, some cyclists could be seen risking their lives riding along fast-moving traffic. Cyclists say the main reason they take the risk and ride on main roads is simply because there aren't enough bike tracks for them. And latest government figures show a worrying trend of cyclist casualties steadily rising in recent years. Rachel Leung, TVB News.
A Legislative Council House Committee meeting was off to a rocky start today over the oath-taking controversy involving a number of non-establishment lawmakers. The trio, who failed to be sworn in earlier this week, were barred from the session. Winna Wong reports.
A war of words between the rival camps from the get-go. Three lawmakers, Yao Wai-ching, Sixtus Leung, and Edward Yiu, did not complete their swearing-in ceremony on Wednesday and were barred from entering the chamber today. All except one entrance into the room was locked and the remaining door was guarded by security. Leung Kwok-hung of the League of Social Democrats pointed out that this was a fire safety hazard. And other non-establishment lawmakers joined in.
I want you to promise that in future House Committee meetings, as chairman of DHC, you have to ensure that all the doors here must be unlocked. You have to investigate who made the decision today to lock all the exits. Are you going to deal with that?
After about 15 minutes, lawmakers discussed the three lawmakers retaking their oaths next week. Rival legislators locked horns.
There were a number of members who were declared invalid in their oath. I don't think they should be allowed another chance because their words and their deeds go against their undertaking regarding one country, two systems. The Secretary General didn't have any unified standard, and they were very unhappy. Now, one of Mr. Gary Chen's party member swallowed the word Hong Kong in his oath.
Several pro-establishment groups also made their voices heard today. Statements were published in newspapers condemning Yao and Sixtus Leung for their behavior. There were also protests outside the LegCo building. The groups are angry that the pair seem to have said China instead of China when making their pledges on Wednesday. Some see it as an offensive term because it was what the Japanese called China during the Second World War. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying waded in, saying the behavior of Yao and Sixtus Leung harmed the relations between Hong Kong and the mainland. Meanwhile, Secretary for Education Eddie Ng said he noted a number of secondary school principals issued a statement yesterday saying they oppose outside groups politically interfering with their students over the issue of Hong Kong independence. He welcomes the move by the principals and reiterated that Hong Kong independence or self-determination is against the law and should not be discussed within campus. Wenna Wong, TVB News.
The people of Thailand are in a profound state of mourning after their beloved monarch, King Bhumibol Adulyadej, passed away yesterday at the age of 88. He was king for 70 years, making him the world's longest reigning monarch. King Bhumibol had been in poor health for several years, but it's clear the moment he died in a Bangkok hospital last night, the nation of 67 million people was plunged into grief. To signify the country's loss, an entire year of mourning will be respected. Outside Bangkok's Grand Palace, thousands of mourners lined up to pray before a portrait of the king. Former Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra was among those paying their respects. Inside, Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha and members of his cabinet took part in symbolic bathing rites for the king. Then, the Prime Minister made an official succession announcement. He said the king's son, Crown Prince Maha Wajiralongkorn, will be crowned the new king. He asked people to respect his decision to delay his coronation so he could mourn his father. European foreign ministers meeting in Bangkok expressed sympathy.
We can see and feel around us today the true love of the Thai people for His Majesty the King, who has left an unprecedented mark on the lives of the Thai people and the history of Thailand.
World leaders echoed that sentiment. Condolences were expressed by Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, Australia's Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, and Indonesia's President Joko Widodo. In China, President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Keqiang sent their condolences. And U.S. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon reserved a moment of silence for the king at the United Nations General Assembly. Members of the royal family today made their way to the hospital as thousands of Thais lined the streets to catch a glimpse of the hearse carrying the king's body. The Thai people worship the king like a father figure because he successfully guided them through decades of change and turmoil.
Consumer prices on the mainland rose 1.9% year on year in September. Analysts had forecast a 1.6% rise. Still, it is the fifth consecutive month the rise in the consumer price index has slowed since registering a 2.3% increase in April. That was the highest level since July of 2014. Analysts say the moderated growth of inflation last month is mainly due to rising food prices. The numbers suggest consumer demand is starting to pick up on the mainland, which has been grappling with a prolonged economic downturn.
A WikiLeaks release of a hacked email of Hillary Clinton shows a U.S. Democratic presidential nominee said privately she would ring China with missile defense if Beijing fails to curb North Korea's nuclear program. WikiLeaks claims it's an excerpt from a private speech in a 2013 email Clinton refused to release. In it, she says if North Korea successfully obtains a ballistic missile, it would threaten not just Washington's allies, but also Hawaii and even the American West Coast. Clinton said she told Chinese officials while she was Secretary of State that the U.S. might then deploy more ships to the area. Beijing has harshly criticized the U.S. and South Korea's planned deployment of a missile defense system targeting Pyongyang.
Tragedy struck a group of South Koreans who had just returned home from a sightseeing trip to China. Their bus caught fire on a highway, killing 10 and injuring 9 others. Authorities say the bus smashed into the guardrail and burst into flames near the southeastern city of Ulsan. Reports say 20 people were on board, including the driver. The passengers are retirees of a petrochemical company and their spouses who had landed at Daegu Airport. The exact cause of the fire is under investigation. Authorities suspect it started after a ruptured tire caused the bus to hit the guardrail, sparking the flames. The driver, who survived the crash, has been arrested on suspicion of involuntary manslaughter.
And still ahead in our newscast, a move to exempt foreign domestic helpers of window cleaning duty postponed. 21 girls kidnapped by Boko Haram freed in Nigeria. And Colombia extends ceasefire with left-wing rebels.
There are times when we just can't help ourselves. Hong Kong Tennis Open 2016 continues live tonight at 8 on Pearl.
每個人都係獨一無二，點變都好，我始終係我。了解自己嘅 DNA 健康密碼，知道應該食啲咩，做咩運動，為自己做最啱嘅選擇。黎寶城擁有保障，同時擁抱健康。
投保指定健康保障可獲贈營養基因測試，英國保城。
50th anniversary of the Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix, the second GT World Cup, the Gia Race, and the proving ground of new legends, the FIA Formula 3 World Cup. This is Motorsport, the Sun City Group 63rd Macau Grand Prix.
法國特福特有火紅點全新易潔廚具系列，幫你餐餐 keep 住烹飪水準，仲有3倍耐用嘅終極抗磨太至尊易潔塗層。為你最愛嘅家人預備美味佳肴，法國特福係全球No.1，少不了的好主意。
There was no handshake to start the second debate.
Would either of you name one positive thing that you respect in one another?
Don't miss the final round of the US presidential debate, live Thursday morning at 9, with the same night rerun at 9:35 on Pearl.
Welcome back. A plan to ban foreign domestic helpers from cleaning the exteriors of windows has been postponed. This comes after the Hong Kong government said it needs time to consult various stakeholders. Evelina Leung tells us more.
Earlier this week, foreign domestic helper agencies announced that the Philippine consulate here in Hong Kong was requiring them to include a new clause in employment contracts starting tomorrow. It states that helpers will not be required to clean the exteriors of windows. This followed a number of cases in which helpers fell to their deaths while carrying out this task. Today, the government announced that the new requirement will not take effect from tomorrow as planned. Secretary for Labour and Welfare Matthew Cheung explained more discussion is needed on this issue. He said the current clause is far too all-embracing and too broad brush.
We've got to strike a balance between their safety and also the interest of employers on the other hand. And the reason is, in some cases, there may be a situation where the windows are in a relatively safe situation. For example, if they're situated on the ground floor in a house, or with a safe corridor outside. And also, if you have iron grills, window grills and all that, all these would certainly be useful preventive measures to account of.
Cheung said the Philippine consulate has agreed to postpone the implementation of this clause by 1 month until November 14th. During this time, stakeholders will be asked to express their views on this matter. He added the administration will meet with the Philippine consulate next Monday for discussion. The Indonesian consulate, Cheung added, has also agreed not to act on this issue until a consensus has been reached. Some employment agencies have suggested following the footsteps of Singapore over this matter. In the Lion City, employers can ask their helpers to clean the exteriors of windows if there are adults on hand to help, there are window grills in place, and helpers are taught how to carry out the task safely. Evelina Lang, TVB News.
In Nigeria, 21 of the Chibok schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram 2 years ago were freed yesterday after intense negotiations that included international mediation. But about 200 are still being held by the Islamist militant group. Alan Buknia reports.
It's the first release since the girls were taken captive in a case that sparked international outrage. The girls, some carrying babies, were freed before dawn yesterday and greeted by Nigeria's vice president.
You are going to be very well taken care of. We've already provided very good accommodation for you where you will stay, where you will sleep, and your parents will come and meet you there also.
Their release was brokered by the Swiss government and the International Red Cross. But there are conflicting accounts as to whether there was a prisoner swap. An army officer who spoke on condition of anonymity said the girls were given their freedom just hours after 4 Boko Haram leaders were released from prison. Osunbajo insists there was no swap.
Absolutely no, there were absolutely no exchange of any kind, and certainly any news or stories about 4 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 commanders is entirely untrue.
Nigeria's information minister also denied there was a swap.
It is a release, the product of painstaking negotiations and trust on both sides. We see this as a credible first step in the eventual release of all the Chibok girls in captivity. It is also a major step in confidence building between us as a government and the Boko Haram leadership on the issue of the Chibok girls.
About 270 girls were taken from the school in Chibok, where Boko Haram jihadists have waged a 7-year insurgency. Some have reportedly died while in captivity, while dozens of others have escaped. There was jubilation in the Bring Back Our Girls movement. Rebecca Ijiaku is one of the dozens of students who managed to escape the jihadists during the initial melee.
I appreciate all with the soldiers of this country because of my friends that are released from Boko Haram hand. I was very, very happy today today is the day for joy for me.
The Nigerian government said negotiations will continue to try to bring home the rest of the girls. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
The man accused of setting off bombs in New York and New Jersey last month has pleaded not guilty to charges he tried to kill police officers. Ahmad Khan Rahimi made his first appearance from his hospital bed in New Jersey. The Afghan-born U.S. citizen has been hospitalized with gunshot wounds since he was captured in a police shootout September 19th. The 28-year-old is charged with 5 counts of attempted murder of police officers. He's also accused of plotting several bombings, that is, 2 in particular are at issue. The first was a pipe bomb that exploded near a charity race in New Jersey where no one was injured. The second was a pressure cooker bomb that went off in New York City on September 17th. That blast injured 31 people.
Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos has extended a ceasefire with FARC rebels through the end of this year. Santos did it to revive a peace accord to end 5 decades of war after voters rejected a hard-fought deal in a referendum. Those who voted no want rebels who've committed war crimes to be confined for 5 to 8 years and banned from elected office. The FARC leadership has said it is willing to hear new ideas. So Santos plans to share new proposals with them in Havana. Santos won this year's Nobel Peace Award for his effort in brokering peace. And it's official. Antonio Guterres has been appointed the next United Nations Secretary General. The former Portuguese Prime Minister will begin his 5-year term on January 1st. He says his overarching priority is to pursue peace in a conflict-torn world.
We must make sure that we are able to break this alliance between all those terrorist groups or violent extremists on one side and the expressions of populism and xenophobia on the other side. These two reinforce each other, and we must be able to fight both of them with determination.
Guterres is succeeding Ban Ki-moon. The former Portuguese leader was unanimously appointed UN chief by the General Assembly yesterday. Guterres also served as the UN High Commissioner for Refugees between 2005 and last year. All right, Chris, what do you have for us in sports today?
Well, we have something a little unexpected today. The Hong Kong Open. An upset at the tournament. World number 1 Angelique Kerber lost in the quarterfinals to Australia's Daria Gavrilova 6-3 and 6-1. Meantime, 5th seed Caroline Wozniacki continued her good run of form by reaching the semifinals. She beat China's Wang Tiang in straight sets this evening. The scores were 6-3 and 7-5. Los Angeles pitching ace Clayton Kershaw did his job in an unfamiliar role to secure a 4-3 win for the Dodgers, and that helped clinch their series against the Washington Nationals to advance LA to next face the Chicago Cubs. Tony Sabine reports.
With the series poised at 2 games apiece, it was all or nothing for the Washington Nationals and Los Angeles Dodgers. Danny Espinosa singled to right field, and that made it 1-0 to the Nationals at the bottom of the 2nd inning. Top of the 7th, Jock Pederson of Los Angeles hit the first pitch for his first home run in this postseason. With that, the visitors drew level 1-all.
It is gone.
Later, the Dodgers moved ahead 2-1 on a run-scoring single by Carlos Ruiz.
Around 3rd, heading home. He will score.
The visitors were on a roll and were 4-1 in front on a 2-run triple off the center field wall by Justin Turner.
It is off the wall.
The home side cut the deficit when Chris Hasey hit a 2-run home run and made it 4-3.
Back on the track, Kendrick. It is.
But pitcher Clayton Kershaw, who usually starts games for the Dodgers, ensured the Nationals did not make a single run after that, securing victory for LA.
We've still got to win 8 more games, and I think we realize that, and this team knows that. It's a satisfying feeling tonight, no doubt, and we're going to enjoy it, and we're going to celebrate tonight, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. But tomorrow we're going to Chicago, and our mind is completely shifted to beating the Cubs.
We just came up short. I mean, I'm proud of my guys on how they played this year and how they, played through injuries and just kept fighting and fighting, even down to the last out of this game.
Los Angeles will face the Chicago Cubs in Game 1 of the National League Championship Series on Saturday. Tony Sabine, TVB News.
And that's our news.
Good night.
星展銀行深信
Dr. Guan, how can we help you today?
每個人生都係一個精彩故事。
I want to invest the money and make sure she's taken care of.
每一頁都係新開始。
Okay, let's get to work.
我哋將銀行服務化繁為簡，
Her investment's all set.
助你專注創造未來。
We will retire to a little house by the sea.
成就理想，綻放精彩人生。
Thank you.
嚟 dbs.com/sparks 睇睇我哋客戶嘅真實故事啊！
Good evening. It was cloudy with 1 or 2 light rain patches today. At 5 p.m., a northeast monsoon was bringing generally fine weather to the coast of Guangdong. Today's temperatures ranged from 25 to 29.9 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 60 and 82%. Winds were moderate to fresh east to northeasterlies.